darkness now. She doesn't need the light.
Ba re ke magadimana ntweng dijong fa ba ja ga bagadimane ke maja kgomo e tona ka letlalo balale ba e feditse ka ile makanyana le banna bagolo ba ba senang meno ba nne ba e momona hela ba re ke morolong o setlhare so sa ga morakile wa ga lo batile mmatshwane ke tholo e dina ka di machope barolong ba ntsetse. Happy Africa Day, South Africa. Lina Lame ke Lorato Khomolemo. Welcome to our special edition of Africa Day mo lenaneong le lengwe la financial literacy. Re ipela ka bokgabane jwa rona. Now, financial planning assists us to determine long and short-term goals for both ourselves individually as well as our families. We thought as part of expanding on your financial planning and strengthening your financial goals, we should prioritize investments. Today, our learnings are directed at the importance of investing and how this can improve your financial well-being. Our team of financial experts join us for the first time since the inception of this program, we are joined by a live audience. Now let's do a round of introductions so that our audience knows who we are conversing with. We are joined by Mel. Let's start with you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good, and you?
It's good to see you again.
It's nice to be back. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Romain, and I am the Regional Manager in the Free State for the Standard Bank Financial Consultancy.
Thanks, Mel. Luke, are you good?
Yes, I'm very good.
That is fantastic.
Pleasure to be here. My name is Lucas Tole, representing Absa Wealth, and I have been in the financial services industry for the past 21 years.
Hello, Litim.
What can I say?
Lifa,
Hello, ma'am.
you good?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Talk to me.
Good morning, everyone. Morning to the team. It's nice to be here. Name is Lifale Tunkosi. I'm from Ladysmith, representing Nedbank. I'm a financial planner there.
Thank you so much.
Good day, everybody. My name is Benny Mvala, and I'm from Standard Bank, and I'm so excited that we are part of this awesome program that the MEC Treasury is running in the province. Today we were talking about savings, and I must say it is very important that in our families, as individuals, as families, as communities, that we start building a savings culture, because remember, whatever that you're not going to save for, you're going to have to find an alternative way to finance it. So let's start building that savings culture. Let's start saving if you're going on vacation. Start saving for when you need to go fix that pothole damage on your car. For whatever the reason is, let's have a goal and build a savings culture that our children can have something that they can work on. Thank you.
Good day, my name is Sahamiti Tai. I'm the accounts manager from Vodacom, looking after public sector. And you might wonder why Vodacom. People know us as just a cell phone and a SIM card, data and airtime, but we are actually more than that. So as Vodacom, we've positioned ourselves very well. We've moved from the normal mainstream that people have known us, and we're calling ourselves as telco. And then within that, we have financial services as Vodacom that we can actually provide to our citizens here in Free State. So we commit ourselves to the Department of Provincial Treasury here in Free State to bring up those solutions that we can teach our citizens across the Free State province. So thank you.
Welcome back. We are in Clarence for the first time. Mel, we're out of the office for the first time. Can you
I know.
believe it? And we came, and I am appreciating the fact that we are joined by a live audience from the Thabo Mofokeng district. It's beautiful that our people are able to join us at these programs. If you have just joined us, we are today dealing with investments in retirement. And it's a very important subject because sometimes we work for ages and we do not know the implications. We do not understand what we have to do in order for us to get our books in order. Now look, let me start with you. Last week we were dealing with the subject of savings.
Okay.
And I know that from a financial point of view, you experts would tell me that savings speaks a little bit to investments. They almost intertwine. But let's deal with the difference between savings and investments.
Yeah. All right. Yes, as you rightfully said, savings and investment are very much linked. So savings is what we would call suspended spending or consumption.
Okay?
So, for example, this bottle of water, if I may use this.
You may.
I've been drinking this water, but now I've stopped. So I've suspended the consumption of this water.
Ga ke tlhole ke e dirisa.
Maybe at a later stage you might continue
Ke tla boela ko go
consuming.
yona.
So that's what we call, you are saving it for now.
Right.
But when you're investing, you're taking it a step further.
Okay.
Now you're saying, I'm not only suspending the consumption, but now I'm expecting growth. I'm expecting
I
a
see.
return from it. So when I come after 2 hours or 2 years, I don't want it to still be where it was.
Where you left it.
Yeah, it must be more. Now we are talking investment
Investments.
in that regard.
Okay. With that in mind, and I want us to simplify it for our people. Are you saying if I save money, if I give Mel my 2 rand,
Yeah.
and I say she must save it for me, does it have the potential to grow? In terms of savings,
Yes.
all right?
If you save, as indicated earlier, you are just postponing consumption.
I see.
It's like delayed gratification. We tima monate o
Gone jaanong.
for a given period. You're just saying, you know what, ke tla e bona. It's like we ipela.
Eh.
That's all you're doing.
Okay.
That's
That's
all you're doing.
savings.
That's savings.
Investment?
Now, if we invest, it would be something like farming. When you're farming, there you're not saving. If a farmer adds maybe seeds abadibaya in the barn,
Right.
ne? That's what we call, he's saving that seed.
Right.
But as soon as he goes onto the field and he starts planting it, now he's expecting, correct, I've put in so many kilograms of seed into the ground, but I'm not expecting 10 kilograms back. I'm expecting 100
I see.
or a 20 or 200, whatever the case might be.
Right.
So that is the difference between saving and investing. But also, if I may take it a little bit further,
You can.
there's what we call an opportunity cost. Go na le ditlamorago tsa go saver as opposed to investing. I'm gonna bring it back to the issue money. Money has got a virus. So that virus is what we call inflation. So I can take 2 rands gibe or kinemelan. Then what's gonna happen if I come after a year? Its value, its potential, its ability
Right.
to work
Yes.
has been diminished. It has been eaten up by this virus.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's very important to not only save, but to also be equipped about investing
I see.
so that you can fight this virus.
Okay. Now, you touched on the issue of money. Ke tle ke bale Bible,
Okay.
gangwe le gape. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, money answereth all things. Do I need money for me to invest?
Look, There's all types of investment.
Right.
You can invest money, you can invest time,
Uh-huh.
which is why you find a lot of people would say time is money
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's all types of investment. You can invest in education. You know,
Yes.
the time you spend, growing your mind on a certain or a particular subject, that's also another type of an investment.
Okay.
So yes, money answers all things with regards to some things that are currently transactional. You know,
Right.
if I want to transact with you,
Yes.
how much is your laptop? How much is your pair of shoes?
Yes.
There has to be an interpretation. So money is going to give me an answer and say, okay, this laptop get 20,000.
Right.
Or it's going to tell me, no, this laptop get 5,000.
Right.
So it's answering me in that regard. It's telling me what to expect out of the whole experience.
I see. Mel, let me throw you in here. The Lucas brought up the fact that money, you can invest with money. Time, is an investment. But let's speak to the different kinds of investments that may require me to utilize money.
So I think before we almost jump into the kind of investment, we need to answer a different question.
Okay.
What is the purpose behind it? What am I trying to achieve?
Right.
So let's say, for example, your goal is to buy school clothes for your child that starts high school next year.
Right.
That is going to determine what kind of saving or investing you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go and put money in the stock market because you have to buy your child clothes in 9 months' time.
Right.
So you have to choose what matches that intention. Let's say you want to go on a holiday to
Yes.
Zanzibar or Mauritius or wherever,
Yes.
or even come here to this beautiful place, then you're going to choose the kind of investment that will help you to achieve that goal.
Right.
So we must first answer the question of why is it that I'm trying to save? What do I want this money to do for me?
Right.
And then you match the product that goes with that. Oftentimes we sit around and we hear people talk about, oh, I heard of a unit trust, or oh, I heard there's this thing, or I've heard of a stokvel, but we don't stop and first ask ourselves the question, what do I want this money to achieve? And then go find the thing that will help you best achieve that goal.
Right. For clarity purposes, for my own sake, also, because, I wish Batho ba rona would understand that Linna, you guys have been empowering me sitting here every week with the team. There's so much that I am learning. Is a stokvel an investment? Just out of interest. Just out of interest.
No, absolutely, and that's one of the things that I admire about the people in our country. Whoever came up with the stokvel idea, that was an absolute genius thing to do. Because not everyone has got access to the same resources. So why should you not save just because maybe in your town there's not a branch or a bank or something?
Yes.
Yet you've got a group of people that have got the same shared goal, that have got the intention to want to be better off. So let's help each other out. This month we know that your child needs to buy the whole set of school clothes. So we stokvel together, we club our money, and it's your turn. And we celebrate and we help uplift you and your family. Next month it's my turn. So I think stokvels are just absolutely brilliant.
Beautiful. Lifa,
Yes, ma'am.
let's bring you into this chat. Lately, there's different kinds of investments, obviously. There's people who invest in stock, as in leruo, dikgomo, land, different kinds.
correct, yeah.
Right? Talk to me about the different kinds of research I must conduct if I wanted to start
To invest,
investing.
okay.
Yes, if I'm thinking about investing, what kind of research must I do for me to know that I'm in the right path?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I want to start off with is that financial institutions or individuals who want to pry on individuals and get access to their money, they expose two things. They expose our lack of financial literacy. So that's basically understanding investments, understanding how the banks work, or understanding how, say, someone who has a farm that's open to individuals who want to invest in that type of structure.
Right.
So they pry on us. So it's lack of education or financial literacy, and then they pry also on our desperation. So on the point of financial literacy, I think it brings it back to this point that these type of sit-downs and conversations and interactions that we're having, they spark certain conversations and ideas in our communities. And even if when we move outside of this place, you can go home, you can speak to people at home, you can go to your bank, you can speak to financial advisors. You can walk in and speak to a financial advisor. It's completely free. You don't need to pay anything. Whatever question you have, some questions will answer, and some questions may come up when people get home. Then they
Yes.
can, yeah.
Yes.
Then on the second point of desperation, it's funny because you find that even the most educated people, so-called educated and financially literate people, somehow end up taking financial decisions that are ill-advised. Why? Because maybe there's pressure at home, maybe costs are going up, maybe
Maybe the business is not doing well
exactly.
during-
Maybe
at that particular time.
Exactly.
Right.
So somehow we are all looking for a quick fix. What route can I take that can solve these increasing problems right now? So it's those two things that we need to watch out. So in terms of how do we research with financial institutions, so if anyone comes up to you and says, I'm representing this company, maybe it's based in Johannesburg or Durban or wherever, you can look that company up on the Financial Services Conduct Authority website.
Okay.
So you can just go on the internet and Google, how do I know if a financial company is registered or not?
Right.
It'll pop up, you click on the tab there, then you enter the name of the company, or you can ask for the institution's FSP number. So it's like a registration number for that company.
So every company should have a registration number.
Every financial services provider, that's correct.
Every financial services
That's
provider.
correct, yes.
So anyone who comes to speak to me about finances, that's what you're saying.
That's correct, yes.
Anyone who comes to speak to me about finances, o batlang gore I must take my money and invest it into anything. Really, that's what you're saying.
that's correct.
I need to request, what is it called?
So there's an FSP number, it's like
An
a registration
FSP
number. Or so you have the name of the company.
Right.
You can use the name of the company and the FSP number
Okay.
to look it up on their
right.
on their website.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, Fifi, for purposes also of our audience at home, we should put up that link.
Financial Services Conduct Authority.
Right,
Yeah.
yes,
yeah.
so that our people
Perfect.
are able to utilize it, because I think it's a very important thing, because I
necessary.
do not think that our people know that you can actually look up a financial institution, private or not, to see if it is actually registered.
Registered or not, yes.
Okay.
And so another way of identifying if a company is legit or not is to ask where it's based, how long has it been around, because you see a lot of so-called financial service provider pop up of nowhere. They come into town, especially in small towns. I'm based in Ladysmith, which is a small town, and you
Yes.
find a lot of companies come in, claim that they're from this area and they can do X, Y, and Z for people in that area.
Right.
So ask where are your offices based? How long have you been operating for? You can also go into a bank or any financial planner that you can speak to and say, there's this company that's approached me, or this individual that's approached me. They are offering this product to me. Does this make sense to you? Because we are able to easily identify if an institution or a financial services provider is legit or not.
Just to come in there, Lifa, and I think this is one of the most critical things that our people do not know, that banks are able to work together. And we speak about this every week. Gore re kgona go dula jana mmogo. Mel is from Standard Bank, Lucas is from ABSA, Lifa's from Nedbank. And it's not just them. Munapula's here, he's from FNB. Winnie is here, she is from WinPro. And WinPro is and I think as we speak about private financial institutions, and when we speak to Winnie, I'm going to allow her a little bit to speak to that. Ka gore batho ba rona, at times, when you are approached not by Nedbank or ABSA or Standard Bank, they equally think that you are not legitimate. But it is also important then to understand gore ha ke tla ko go wena ke le lorato. O sena bonnete jwa gore ke bereka ko ke reng ke bereka gone. You are able to walk into a bank, and a Nedbank or a ABSA, and they are able to verify ha ile gore ga o itse go itshebela. They are able to verify that information for you. So you are able to do that. I'm correct,
You
right?
speak to any financial planner.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the biggest red flag with institutions that are not legit, just to be clear, no legit financial services provider can give you 50% return in 2 weeks or in a month. That's not legitimate. So there's a lot of those Ponzi or pyramid schemes running around, especially in small towns also.
Yes.
Because we are not sure exactly what should we expect if we invest finances. So you get into this investment, you promise you that they'll give you 50% return in 2 weeks or in a month. Yeah. So that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Then another point I want to point out, which goes back to your introduction with this question, is that sometimes you find that there's people who have an investment structure. A good example is that there was in KZN, there was an individual who was representing this company where you invest your monies and then I buy stock, which is chicken. And then I grow that stock, I sell it, and then we split profit. So it becomes difficult to identify if that type of institution is legit or not, because with this example that I'm making, that company was actually trying to direct that type of business, but somehow it didn't fall out. So basically the answer is sometimes it's very clear to identify that this is a pyramid scheme. Then in other instances it's very difficult to identify because the idea of the business makes sense, it's legit, but then whoever's managing or running that business isn't able to actually execute perfectly.
All right.
Yeah.
Lerato, can I maybe add on something practical that people can do?
Yes.
Every single representative or financial planner must have what we call a disclosure. So it's a standard document that states who they employed by, the details of the employer.
Right.
On there you will find that FSP number. It will give you the details of the person. It will also have a section that tells you if you want to complain, this is where you go and complain to. So always ask for a copy of the disclosure, and you can then take that and go and Google and see are they actually on the FSCA website.
Right.
Even with we oftentimes get phoned and we get sold something on the telephone.
Yes.
You can ask them to email you a copy of the disclosure before you agree to take up the product.
Right.
Just so that you can again test the legitimacy of who you are dealing with. So just in the back of your mind, remember to ask for a copy of the disclosure. That is the legal document that makes that person legit. And then you can go and check if that is truly a proper document on the website. Because we know how easy it is to fake documents as
Yes.
well. So that will be sort of your second line of testing, is to go onto the FSCA website,
Right.
and then you check and see if that actually comes up or not.
But I think, thanks Mel for that. I think one of the most critical things that Lifa said, and that I think our people, especially right now, and I want to tie it right now, and I've said this even on this program, I've said the minute a gentleman called Lesetja Kganyago assumes the podium, everything in this country changes. And he assumed the podium this week, right? But the challenging part is that we don't have patience. I don't know if we do not have patience or we want quick solutions where our finances are involved. And you know, maybe we should speak about that. Luke, if you could come in maybe. I think generally there's a challenge that we are, ga ke itse gore ke bitse impatience kgotsa ke bitse gore re megabaru ka nako tse ding ke tla e bua ka Setswana ka gore ke Motswana gore re megabaru ka nako tse ding. But there's a certain level of impatience about quick returns where our money is concerned.
Yeah, no, it's a problem, but you also have to try and go to the genesis of the problem.
Okay.
To say, where does it all start? Firstly, it starts with lack of information.
Okay.
Where you find that our people do not have enough information. Let me
Right.
give you an example. You do not know about budgeting,
Right,
so you make poor financial decisions.
right.
So when you realize, you know what, my money is not enough to meet my monthly obligations, panic sets in. Now you're thinking, how do I remedy the situation? Now that's where you are tempted to look for something. How do I remedy the situation? Now that's where you are tempted to look for something quick. But when you look at it, it's been a process. It started somewhere, lack of information, bad habits developed, and then now you find yourself in that position. So, yeah, and also, you know, as people, we are also enticed by, we've got goals. We've got goals. We are attracted to beautiful things and stuff like that. So if there's a better way of doing things, we are going to be drawn to it. But unfortunately, sometimes you can't watch the process. You know, investing and financial matters, just like farming. Raplasi can put in the wheat today, and then tomorrow, let me see how's the harvest doing. In fact, it's going to cause more damage.
That is true.
He has to let the process unfold, and in due season, then he's able to the right rewards.
No. I want to invest. Or you can say, who do I speak to?
I think, as in all things in life, understand where to go.
Yes.
And that's the critical importance of speaking to a financial professional. Whether it is at a bank, whether it is at a private institution, start there, because fortunately and unfortunately we live in an age where there is lots of information at the click of a button. But if you don't have somebody that walks the journey with you, it's very difficult to sift out and figure out what is nonsense and what is the truth.
Right.
You know, and that's where the importance of a financial advisor or professional comes in. Is yes, you can have all of these things in front of you that the internet says, try this, do that, do that. But if you don't have somebody else that is your sanity check, then you're going to jump into anything and everything. So that is why the financial advisor is there. It's to firstly be your partner in this journey that you are trying to go on. Because we all get so stuck in the way that we used to do things that you might be going down the completely wrong path and you don't know it. So the advisor is there to remind you. Remember we spoke about this a year ago. Your goal was you wanted to save 20,000 Rand in 3 years because you want to build a house for your mom.
Right.
Why are you talking to me now about buying a car? What has changed? What's wrong with the car you have?
Yes.
You know, so that's sort of like that voice of reason that should be there. And it is free. The only time there's a cost involved is when you decide what you are going to do.
Right.
But the discussion, the planning, the analysis of where you are and understanding the journey of setting up a budget, all of those things are free. So I don't know about you, but I like free things. I will go for whatever is free. So I have no problem using my own financial advisor to help me to kind of, settle my own mind.
And anyone has access to a financial advisor.
Absolutely anyone.
If anybody walked into Nedbank or Standard Bank or ABSA or FNB, they would be assisted, right? Because I think I have a friend who says after she gets paid, she switches off the bank notifications because just for that week, she switches off the bank notifications. The debit orders must go, and then she'll revisit her bank account again. But everyone has access to a financial advisor. It's not just.
It's got nothing to do with how much you earn, where you live.
Right.
It's truly about what is important to you and what are you going to do and who are you going to partner with to make it happen.
Right. Now let's expand this conversation a little bit further. We have people who are in the employ of the state who do not know the difference between resignation, retirement, retrenchment. But I want us to start first with the option of a person who has been working at a government institution for 10 years, and they've accumulated all of that money that has been going to GP Bank. And now they're moving to a different institution, not non-government. What are the options that they have with now that money may be released to them? Am I able to carry it through to that other? Do I take it and put it in another? What options do I have?
The fun part is in reminding yourself what the purpose of that money is for.
Right.
Because the first thing we think when we resign is, yes, I've got this cash now. Let me go shopping. So we must kind of take 2 steps back and remind ourselves what was the purpose of that money being accumulated. Whether it was in the GPF or whether it was in your work pension fund or provident fund, what was the purpose of that money? That is for the day when you retire, not for now when you feel like you want to buy something fresh. So I think that's where you must kind of quiet down the noise when you are busy making that transition. Is number one, this money is meant for my pension.
Right.
Doesn't matter how many family members show up at my house and to remind me, oh, I know you're going to this new company. Remind yourself, this is for my pension, because guess what? No one is going to look after you when you grow old if you don't look after yourself. So let's start with that. Okay, so now you're clear, you put away the shopping list, and now you know, okay, I'm leaving this employer and I'm going to the next. The first thing is to understand that you can preserve or keep that money. You can leave it where you are going from, or you can choose to take it over into the new employer's fund.
Right. So I have an option to leave it.
Yes. But you must exercise the option. You can't just leave and say, thanks guys, I'm done, I'm leaving now. You must say something.
So there is paperwork that
Yes.
needs to be done, that's what you're saying. So if I'm going from institution A to institution B, before my departure to institution B, I must ensure that I have filled documents, I've signed them, HR knows, finance knows, and everything's in order. All right.
So on that option form, you can choose to leave it where you were. Let's say you were at the GEPF, you choose to leave it there.
Right.
It will continue growing until the day that you're ready and you want to make a decision.
Right.
Or you know that your new employer has a pension fund as well, you've spoken to them, they can carry that money over.
Okay.
Alternatively, you could decide that you want to go outside of the employment environment.
Right.
And you can, let's say you want to go to Old Mutual, or you've got a Liberty advisor or Standard Bank advisor, you can then choose to put that money into what we call a preservation fund.
Right.
So it's meant to preserve it until the day that you are ready for your pension.
Right.
Okay. There are different options. You can choose to draw some of the money out. But guys, I don't know about you. I don't like to give my money away. And there's implications on the decision that you make.
Right.
So, maybe we can talk about the taxing side of it a little bit later.
Yes.
But all of those, every choice in life has a consequence. So before you make it, understand the consequences behind it. And again, I think that's why you must have a financial advisor involved. Because they can help you make sense of all these things. If I choose to do A, the implication is 1, 2, 3.
these.
If I
Right.
choose to go this way, that's the implication.
Right.
So you can choose to leave it where it is, transfer it to your new employer, or preserve it on your own in an external fund.
Okay. Lifa, I want to tie this moving concept to medical aid. Because one of the things that is important and we have, we try and look after is our health, right? Now, when I move from one institution to the other, or when I retire, what are my options where medical aid is concerned?
So it's a very good question. Now, the older you grow, the more important medical aid becomes. Yeah. So I think we can all feel it in our bodies. Back in high school, I was a road runner at a specific pace, but now, my pace is very, very, very slow. So I can feel it somehow that I'm getting older.
Right.
I can't say I'm old, but it's not the same as it was like before. And that's just the nature of the body. You can't fight aging. You can't fight chronic conditions.
Yes.
For instance, my dad is diabetic. Because it's chronic, and he got it at the age, I think it was 32, 33, 35, around that age. Yeah. So there's some things you can't fight as you grow older. You can delay in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of your diet or whatever. But so we can't delay aging. As a consequence of that, we can't delay some of the conditions that come with that, like BP or cancer or whatever else is out there. Now, in relation to medical aid before retirement and after retirement, when you're moving between different institutions or different companies, unless the other company uses the same medical aid provider, then you'd be able to use it on the other end.
Right.
But generally, you find that when you get to the different institution, then they require you to pick whatever option that they provide you with. Other thing is, the older you grow, the more expensive medical aid becomes. So when you are getting to a decision of retirement and you're looking at your medical condition, medical aid is something that's very important to consider. I have clients who are not sickly at all. You see that they have at least, say they're 55 or 60,
Right.
but you can see that they have at least 15 to 20 years in them because of maybe it's genetics, maybe it's diet and exercise, that's
Right.
how we are putting it, or on the opposite end, you have clients who don't really live a healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
Then their medical costs become very necessary. So for someone, say you're moving from the GEPF, a positive concept about the GEPF is when you retire and you decide to stay with them, they still pay for your medical aid, which becomes something very, very important for sickly people. Not sickly in a bad way, as in, bedridden or something, but you need to see a doctor, you need to see specialists.
There's coverage.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
what you're saying.
Yeah. Because if you transfer to a different insurer, say, or Mutual or Liberty or whichever other insurer that you transfer to, they don't cover your medical aid. They just cover the income that you'll be getting on a monthly basis. Then from that income, you need to figure out a way of how am I going to pay all my expenses and then fit in my expensive medical aid into that structure. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lucas, just, we're talking about, generally, I think we're overviewing investments in retirement. Can we invest as a family? Because sometimes we think it's an individual decision.
Yes.
But I want to check if
Yes.
we're able to invest as a family.
No, definitely. There's so many investment products out there
Right.
which cater for different needs that people might have. Just to give you an indication,
Yes.
trusts, a trust,
Right.
which is a juristic person, can also invest.
Right.
Companies can invest. So definitely, we can invest as families.
Provided ga re tle go lwanela madi ao, ne?
I think also rules of engagement need to be specified.
Clear.
Yeah, they
Yes.
need to be specified. Once it has been ironed out, I think you shouldn't experience the at a later stage.
Right.
So yes, there's definitely room and products that cater for you as a family or as a couple to invest to achieve your common goal.
Okay. You know, I know that we are talking, but we also have a live audience that is going to give us some questions. But while Fifi is moving around to check if we do have questions from the floor, Mel, I want us to just quickly speak about the taxation. You mentioned it earlier. Let's speak to, and we spoke about the fact that there's retrenchment, there's retirement, there's resignation. But what are the taxation implications where my money is? Because sometimes, you know, if I've worked for 20 years, right? And I go to GPF and I ask them, how much do I have? And then they'll say, you've made, in the past 20 years, you've got 3 million, right? So I see the figure. I already planned for 3 million.
You're spending it already.
I'm spending it in my head already. What are the taxation implications?
So there's two very, very big differences in terms of your tax.
Okay.
You can go from, if you resign, you start paying tax from any amount above 27,500.
Okay.
Okay, on that tax scale. But if you retire, you get a tax-free amount of 550,000. So that's a massive
a
difference.
massive.
27,500 versus 550,000. I don't know about you, I don't like SARS that much. I don't want to give them so much of my money. So you need to understand that there are two vastly different tax tables that are applied when you resign versus when you retire or you are retrenched or there's death that happens or a divorce. So those two events, completely different tax implications.
Right.
So that's why the discussion must happen before you make the decision. You know, I've got a family member that is willingly resigning in the next few months, and I am literally crying my eyes out thinking of the tax implication. How can you just give away
All of that
you know,
money.
close to R1 million to SARS because you're impatient and don't want to wait another 2 years until you at least turn 55. You know, I don't know who just wants to give away millions so easily just by not waiting for 2 years. You know, and that's the kind of discussion that an advisor would have with you, is to say, you know, can you buckle down and wait another year or two when you turn 55, or, you know, then you might be retrenched. Now let's talk about what does this mean in terms of the type of tax that you're going to pay and the amount of tax that you
Right.
are going to pay.
Right.
You know, the other thing that happens is that one of the statistics is that typically we will change jobs 7 times in our lives. And if you think about the fact that you've got a lifetime limit of 550,000 Rand tax-free, every time you go and change a job and you just take the money and you pay the tax on it, you are eating away at that tax-free amount you're going to get the day you go on pension. You know, and those are the kind of things that we must also talk about, because nobody schools you. I mean, before I got into this industry, I used to work at Johnson & Johnson. I was too happy for that money that came into my account. I had no clue where it came from. I just know it was because I worked there.
Yes.
And nobody had that discussion with me. And now I've already used a portion of my 550 tax-free, and I'm sitting thinking, I
could
can't
have
even
done-
remember how much it was, you know, and nobody at all spoke to me about that. Nobody in HR said to me, Melissa, remember when you're filling in these forms, that this forms part of what is going to get taken away the day you retire. So I also I don't want to make HR bad, but it's not their role to talk to you about these things.
Yes.
That's where the financial advice piece comes in. That's where the
Yes.
financial planners' skills and expertise comes in. So please, I beg of you, retirement decisions are worse than when you make a decision of who to get married to. See, because you can divorce the person if you don't like them. You cannot undo your retirement decision once you've made it.
Right.
That's how, you know, it's literally a life-changing decision.
Yes.
So divorce can get you out of the marriage, but nothing's going to get you out of a bad retirement decision.
Yeah.
But you're touching on, Fifi, I'm going to come to you just now before I know. You're touching on a very important subject of divorce. Lucas, how does it affect, how does divorce affect my retirement? You know, and the investment, and maybe we should also talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, parting ways.
Yeah. Look, let's start off by saying divorce is a very expensive exercise financially. It's very rare where you will get people, they get off scot-free
Yes.
after a divorce. But also the first thing that you need to establish, what is your marriage regime? You see, meaning...
I want us to break.
So, Arabaka marriage regime, what we are talking about is to say what type of a marriage agreement do you have?
There we go.
Now, you'd find there's, for all intents and purposes,
Right.
they are categorized into three.
Okay,
You get in community of property.
fine,
So a traditional marriage would fall into that category.
fine.
You are in community of property. In community of property, we are saying, same ke sa gago,
Right.
sa gago ke
Ke
sa-
same,
eh.
yes.
So that's what happened.
And when you say a traditional marriage would fall into that, ora gore ha
If
bo
Kenyala's
ratlhole-
tape, if Kenyala's tape, for example.
Ke ne ke sa batle re simolola ko.
Oh, okay. It's not a guy.
Ke ne ke batla gore re simolole ka gore ha o tlile ko gae ka dikgomo
Eh,
wa itlha wa ra bo ra go molemo bo morakile bo setlhare wa re o kopa go tlogela kgomo tsa ko gara tlhole ko gae. That is traditional marriage.
That's traditional.
We are automatically, ha o sena go dintsha bagolo ba dumelane, mogolo kwa no tswile ko lesakeng. We are automatically traditionally married.
Yes.
And we then fall into the category, in community
of property.
Fantastic. Ke batla gore re tlhalose sentle gore batho ba rona ba tlhaloganye. All right.
Then go bo go na le another category.
Right.
This category is where you have antenuptial contract.
Right.
Now, more antenuptial contracting, you can have out and out,
Uh-huh.
kgotsa o ka nna le accrual.
Okay.
Accrual ke what I had before re kopana, re
Right.
nyalana na le wena,
Eh.
is mine.
Tsaka ke tsaka,
Pele ga re kopana.
pele ga re kopana.
Eh,
Okay.
But as soon as we get married,
Yes,
we start building together from there.
Fine.
So that's accrual.
that's fine.
And then out and out, Yone, it's what I had before
Uh-huh.
is mine,
Uh-huh.
and what you had is yours.
Right.
But even le ha re sentse re
Le ha re
nyalane,
le ka gare.
le ha re sentse re nyalane,
Tsa me ke tsa me, tsa gago ke tsa gago.
what is mine is mine, what is yours is yours.
Go siame.
So it's a very, we need to establish, okay, they fall into which category.
Right.
Then once that has been established, then we decide on how much is due to who. So as a couple,
Uh-huh.
then let's say an estate.
Yes.
The two estates it's alone.
Okay.
So if it so happens onyala someone,
Uh-huh.
and or accumulate, let's say, for example, 100,000.
Right.
Where now on a 150,000.
Uh-huh.
And you are in community of property.
Right.
Lots are everything, we throw it in the pot, 300,000,
Yeah.
and then we divide it. Then equally, 50-50.
Nna ke re wa itse re rata madi, mara go siame.
And I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately,
Yes.
the bulk, our people, they still marry in community
Right.
of property.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's a wrong type of marriage regime.
Uh-huh.
If it fit follow, now I'm going into this thing for life, I'm not coming out, then I suppose you can go in. But there's also another layer to it to say, okay, even if you're in community of property,
Yes.
the other spouse is not entitled to 100%. Let's say, for example, in the case of death or things like that,
Yes.
he's not entitled necessarily to 100%.
Right.
Because you still have got your own estate. So
Right.
if you only will, you can still, your share of the takings, it can still be allocated to the parties that you would want to bequeath your assets to.
Nalwena, we're going to come back to this subject because I think it's an important thing, especially where children are also involved. We must speak about that. But I want us to go to Fifi, who has a question from the floor.
Okay.
Bua hela Kgosi, o se kwa ba tshaba.
Dumelang.
Akgerra.
Ne ne kopa go tlela magawa gape hanyane ho taba ya FSP
Okay.
registration.
Yes.
So no, in reality and especially youth, re dula re le difounung.
Okay.
And then maybe tla be ba tla go reka teki somewhere online. And then the advertisement say they are appear di founung tsa rona, and then okay, be ke di set out click, and then ntwe e be se ya South Africa. Sort of like ebele ne ke batla go botsa gore FSP ke ya worldwide kapo ko like the companies tse kaofela if ke e search ke tlo e thola, let's say ke ya Australia e na le FSP eo e leng gore like ke tlo ba thola ka yona.
Okay.
Yeah, ke
Yeah.
So what he wants to understand, for purposes of just everybody and communicating, is that, Lefa, you mentioned FSP codes and registrations earlier,
FSP numbers, yeah.
the FSP numbers. He wants to understand, are we able to only see if the FSP number is for a South African institution only, or we are able to track if it's international? His concern is that sometimes on the you get these things that come up on Facebook and and all of that, and as they come up, you may click on it and it automatically offloads your information for those people. Now, does it mean it's just if he wanted to trace it, is it just for South African purposes, or are we able to track it anywhere else in the world?
Okay, I stand to be corrected by the team on this, but it
Yes.
should be only for South African companies.
Okay. What happens? Different countries have got different jurisdictions. You get what I'm saying? But for South Africa, the requirement is that your FSP should be displayed on your premises, every form of advertising that you do, which is why you will find banks, the insurance companies, every advert that they issue, it will say a registered financial services provider, an authorized registered financial services provider. So that applies to South Africa, but we take it for other jurisdictions. Lebone, they do have their framework, legal framework, where it will be required for them to advertise those things. But you can impose South African laws offshore. You could find they've got a different way of applying it. So to be on the safe side, consult the financial services provider that are local, then they can maybe tell you about whoever you want to interact with. That would be on the safe side to do it that way.
Maybe just to add on that, there's a toll-free number for the FSCA, and you can also phone them and say, listen, I'm unsure about this one. Are you able to check or verify? Because the FSCA is sort of like the the watchdog or the governing body that everything is supposed to filter through. So even like with Standard Bank, we've got our Isle of Man and we've got other jurisdictions.
Right.
But it needs to be known in South Africa. So you can always phone them and ask them. It's a free number to just double check and help you make sure that this is legitimate or not. Because the less info you find, that's probably a sign that it's
Yeah.
not something that you should get
True,
involved in.
But for purposes, I think also just like the link, for purposes of this show and the viewers at home also, I think that toll-free number is going to be very important so that we can flight it and people are able to access it. Fifi, I think he has a follow-up question.
Oh, there was a little bit investment.
Okay.
Like no ki middle age ki youth, and then we told a lot of college hand. So in terms of
Thola gore?
tšhelete, like
Getting
mogolo, wa. Yeah, and then I want, but then ki interested to invest. So like for example, let's say ki gola 5,000.
Okay.
And then ki Google like or invest. So the companies that the bank di teng of it. O ka dua ka kae maybe before. Ke tla make bele tšhelete kae or ke invest, ke start to invest.
Okay.
Kapo it's okay go gola kae and then o tlo gona go kenya kae.
Okay. Lucas, can you come in?
Yes,
sir?
it's not based on Okola Bokai. It's normally based on Okona Bokai.
Okona Bokai.
If
Right.
you get what I'm saying. So it could be any 5,000, but can I win a lotto? You get what I'm saying? So my investment is not going to say Okola 5,000. So you can only make an investment that's at 200. So it's all about how much can you afford. But this is where it's very important to bring in the role of a financial advisor so that they can expose you to say, okay, based on one, where you are, what you can afford, and also based on the time horizon for this investment, then they can channel you to a product that would be suited to your needs. But the rationale or the thinking should be there's not going to be a quick win. Investing is a process,
Want
it's
to
a
come
long
in?
process.
Lifa, you'd like to come in there?
Yeah, just to add on that point about it doesn't really matter how much you're earning, it's how much you can afford to save. One of my clients, they started investing when they started working. So it must have been 40 years ago because they've already gone on retirement. Yeah. So we were looking at one of his old investments. I think he was saving around 40 Rand a month. That was back then though. Saving around 40 Rand a month. He was a security guard for a public enterprise.
Okay.
Gets to retirement, he takes whatever he's taking as a lump sum.
Right.
Then he's earning an X amount of income on a monthly basis. He has his investments, and he has I think he has around 2 million invested. He was a security guard, doesn't have a car.
Right.
Still works from home to work, lives a simple lifestyle. Then one of his colleagues, who was a supervisor, clearly earning more than him. Yeah. But when he got to retirement, he had to pay off. Still had 3 cars that he needed to pay off. He still he was going not through a divorce, but he has a second wife. So there was some settlement that he had to
Sort out
exactly.
first.
Plus, he's a very not flashy, but he shows up. When he shows up, he wants to show up. So it goes back to the conversation about opportunity cost. That if you want to be flashy, you are going to give up income or savings that you could be saving for the future or for your
Right.
beneficiaries. Yeah.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what job you're doing, how much you're earning. It's just the mindset that I'll start small, I'll develop a habit, and then over time it will make more sense over time.
One of the things that I have taken for myself from this program is the fact that if you can save, you can invest. Because you must first start with the practice of saving And if you can get it right, first with saving, you'll get it right with investing.
Definitely.
See, even I know that. Getting better.
100%.
I'm getting better. Do we have another question, Fifi?
Greetings to everyone on the floor.
Good morning.
I wanted to ask, as different FSP members, do you regard the investment of cryptos, stocks, as a feasible investment option? And if I am involved in those type of investments, do I get taxed at a later stage? Let's say I make a huge chunk amount of money. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Mel,
Yeah.
can I start
Oh,
with you? Sorry. Okay, start, and then Mel will come in.
Okay. I think one of the realities that you have to make peace with as an investor is that taxation is a given.
Right.
You will be taxed. When you
SARS
make
will
money,
take its money.
SARS will take notice of your skills, and they will they will want their fair share. So make peace with it. You can't run away from it.
Right.
Yes, financial institutions have got those platforms. In fact, I can say with confidence, all financial institutions have got trading desks where they are basically exchanging not only currencies, but stocks, like you're saying, crypto, all manner of things that you can think of that have been traded on different exchanges. Yes, they are there. But for the layman, if Otlawena, what we will do is to say, rather let the experts do it for you. You give us the lump sum, and then your financial advisor will allocate it accordingly based on your financial needs. But if you think that you can do it on your own, there are platforms that you can go on to, and they give you the platform to be able to exercise your skills.
Mel, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, crypto is one of those things I don't like to talk about out loud too much. Because there's so many different investments. And again, I want to remind you to come back to what is the purpose, what are you trying to achieve? Because if you are, let's say you are gambling the money in terms of cryptos, but it's the money that's intended to pay for your studies, is the risk worth the reward? So you kind of have to group it into what is the purpose of this set of money? What is the purpose of this set of money? If I were to lose this money that I'm buying cryptocurrency with, for example, will it drastically have an impact on my life, or does it not matter? So that's kind of how you have to separate it in your mind. It's the same thing like people that like to gamble. They go then, they go, you know what? This 500 rand that I take, if I lose it, I lose it. If I win, it's fine. But if people are going there with the intention of saying, I have to go and win and change this 500 into 5,000 because I have to pay my rent this month, it's a completely different risk that is associated with it. So just understand what is the purpose of why you want to trade or do those types of things, and what are you trying to achieve with it. What is the impact if you win? What is the impact if you lose? But there's room for everything.
But I also, sorry Mel, just to come in, but also I think, especially once you want to play into the crypto bracket, there is then a lot of knowledge that you need to acquire before you even think you are ready to play in that space. And I think that's one of the things that, again, Lifa said, if it can offer you 50% in 2 weeks, it's not the right one. You must question.
Questionable, yeah.
Right. So I think it's the same thing, because you would need a lot of exposure with international markets
Right,
before
yeah.
you
Jump into that type of investment. Just to add on that also, I'm also personally now, we all have our personal preferences and opinions about everything, but in terms of cryptocurrency, when it came out, I watched a lot of documentaries trying to understand what exactly is happening here.
Right.
In terms of where money has to be made, say I'm selling these sofas or couches, say it costs me 500 rand to make this, and then I'm going to sell it for, just say 700 rand.
Right.
That difference is 200 rand. That's my profit. So to make this couch, then the labor, of course, I need to pay myself. I need to buy other material to make another couch.
Right.
Then I also need to make a profit to bring back into the investment. One of the biggest questions that I have over crypto, and my brother there, I think when you get home or in your spare time, just look it up and in more detail and trying to understand exactly for what you are buying, what are you buying and what are you selling.
Right.
Yeah. That's the biggest red flag for me personally though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my opinion
Maybe
will change
that's
in
the
future.
first learning point for anyone.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So just trying to understand what is the exchange, what is being bought and what is being sold, and then you'll understand how it works. Just can I add
Yes.
on into this
You can.
into the statement?
You can.
Yeah.
Let's do
Because when you understand that, then you'll know how to be a better, what is it called, crypto trader. Because to be a better seller of these couches,
Yes.
and maybe I can find a cheaper place where I can find the material.
Right.
Maybe the distance between where I'm getting the material and where I am will save me on fuel costs, transport costs, whatever. So then I better understand how to move around the business. The red flag with crypto, personally, is that there's a lot of gray areas that still need to be
Dealt with.
dealt with. Yeah.
Okay. Fifi, do we have another question from the floor? We've got two more. Okay. Let's go to that.
What's all the guy, man?
Re teng Ntate le kae? Ra leboga.
I've got few questions about these trading scams, but I don't know if is it possible to mention some of the names of some of those scammers or what? Because if I have a look on these tradings that are famous right now via social medias, others, if you check on the post, it doesn't have the registration number, but they have the attached signatures of the operating officers, even the authorized managers. So I've started to be worried about these scammers because already they use the account that comes from the financial institutions. So I'm just wondering if the institution will be answering this question. Do you able to trace those scammers who are trending on their social medias? Because already if you check, they can tell you like we can deposit the money, whether is it FNB, ABSA, Nedbank, or Capitec. They are using the account from the institutions. But if you check on behind of that, they are still scamming people from South Africa. Is that, I'm still wondering if you will be able or are you able to trace those scammers so as you can try to stop them, because already most of the people have been milked their money.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. With regards to scammers, what I can say is that the South African financial institutions, the regulations that are linked to financial institutions are one of the best in the world.
Okay.
So every financial institution would have the forensic department. So if a person comes in and wants to open an account, there will be FICAD and all that, but we, and we'll try to establish what's the purpose of the account and things like that. But that does not necessarily mean that the person hasn't lied, you see. So they can still say, this is what I'm going to use the account for, it's for business, but then they start scamming people. Then what happens, we react to that by freezing the accounts, pending the investigation. And then we are able to do that. So they have to be reported. As soon as we get a report from the police, their account is frozen. The scammers can't access it until we get the outcomes of the investigations. But these scammers, they also know that these accounts are frozen. So what they do, sometimes they'll scam you and then they withdraw very quickly. So in that case, the bank will establish, were you negligent? Was there negligence and
From
stuff
your
like that
part.
from your part?
Yeah. Right.
If there was no negligence and they can see that you were, you couldn't have
Innocent.
seen then a bank will make a determination to basically reimburse you but that has to be basically, there'll be a panel that will decide on your situation.
Oh, Lifa, you wanted to
Yeah,
comment?
just to also add on that point. In terms of pyramid scheme, say I have a pyramid scheme and everyone here invests in my pyramid scheme.
Yes.
There's no written agreement. It's just word of mouth between everyone here that if you invest an X amount,
It comes
Lifa's
aside.
company can flip it in a week or two and then you'll get this amount.
Right.
And that pyramid scheme at some point goes away
Right.
and run away maybe into a different town or whatever. It becomes difficult for say, SAPS, the police services, to arrest me because our agreement wasn't
verbal.
was verbal. It's like going to a mashonisa, say you loan me 500 rand.
Right.
I'll say I'll pay you by the end of the month.
Yes.
End of the month, I owe you 30% interest and say, okay, I have a lot of pressure, I'll pay you next month. That goes on for, say, a year. The money is going up. So what happens in that, it's you can't go to a police station and say, I gave this person an X amount. He said he'll pay it back to me within a month. It's been over a year, and can you arrest this person? So the agreement brings it back to what was said about disclosure letter.
Yes.
There has to be a disclosure letter, so whichever institution, registered institution, has to take accountability. It doesn't really matter if there's any signature or whatever we see online, because I could start a pyramid scheme, you could start a pyramid scheme, and you can just sign. You can call yourself a CEO, I can call myself a chief operating officer. No one really knows if it's genuine or not, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I come in? Because
Yes.
I think for our audience, one of the important things is that one of mashonisa and stuff like that. I'm just going to say two things on
Yes.
that.
Okay.
One, you cannot legitimize an illegal contract. Let me give you an example. I cannot say to you, go and, let's say, kill someone, and then we sign on it, and then when you decide otherwise, I say, but no, you signed, we agreed that you're going to kill someone. It's null and void. It's not applicable. So because our mashonisas in the community and stuff like that, they do not have a license to operate as a financial services provider. They do not have recourse, strictly speaking. In fact, it's illegal for them to be operating financial services, issuing financial services products. So just in case we do have someone who's lending out money, just know, if push comes to shove, that person does not owe you anything. That they can maybe just pay you back, but the interest is that you can't enforce it. It's unenforceable. But if you've met someone who knows their rights, they can even get you into trouble to say, but you're operating illegally, you know, and stuff like that. So I know that's a biggie in our communities.
Okay. Fifi, you said we have one last question from the floor. Just before we do that, I just want to mention that we will continuously take a round of questions. So once we are done with that question, Fifi, you will bring it back to us, and then we will do a second round when we come back from the break. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
I often say one of the biggest things that I regret in life is being ignorant to financial literacy. Because my late mother tried all her best to get me going. So I have these questions for you, ladies and gentlemen in front. Do you guys perhaps own shares in the banks that you work on? That's my first question. So because I invest with Easy Equities, so I'm into stock markets, I buy shares in big companies. So I want to know, for you guys as bankers, if you do have such investment with the bank that you're working for or the bank that pays you. That's question one. And what can encourage us as young people in terms of saving, especially with Easy Equities, because it's very easy to invest as little as R1. So what's your take on that to us as young guys? How can you guys encourage us on that? So my third question is more based on the medical issue. So I have a friend of mine whose father was very sick. So they had a medical aid. But then within 7 months, the medical aid said to them,
Relapse.
it's been exhausted.
Yeah.
So I started going back home, cancelling my medicals and doing all the financial, backgrounds to say, okay, these people are paying more than 2,000 Rand a month on medical aid, and this is what the medical says it covers. So I'm one of the persons now, I don't believe in medical aid because I believe it's, for me, I rather get the shares engine than to pay medical aid on a monthly basis, because I know engine is going to give me dividends twice a year. So, and then that's how I normally go. So, and funeral policies. So I also believe kiddy scam, because if you check how much you pay to these people and then how much they pay out, logically it doesn't make sense. So is it advisable to bank the funeral policies with the bank direct or with a private? Because in a private sector, you see Padala 200 a month, then you pay that money for 40 years. That's a lot of money. But then they give you 10,000 bucks. So what's your take on that? Is it safer to have a life policy with the bank itself or with private? So I will have more questions as time goes by.
Okay. Well, you had a lot of questions, but you will have more questions as we continue. Mel, he's trying to see if you guys trust the financial institutions you work for. Let's start with Standard Bank. Ma'am?
So, full disclosure, I cannot confirm or deny anything that I say right now, in case somebody wants to show up at my house and make a loan. So, one of the things, for example, with fund managers, that is expected of them is that they must invest their own money into the fund that they manage. That's one of the ways that you can kind of put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And that's across institutions, whether you are Stanlib, Investec, Coronation, wherever. So yes, in my personal capacity, I do have, and not just with Standard Bank, but I mean, for me, the goal there is, the reason why I'm doing it is for my daughter's future education expenses. And therefore, it's not just one institution, it's an array of things. So
you've spoken for everybody. So everybody does have some level of investment because the institution expects you that what you're selling to me, you should have tried it on yourself first.
Yeah, because I mean, even the pension funds that the businesses hold, there's some exposure to the company that we work for, as an example. Yeah.
I want to turn this way and say he said youth, so I think on this panel,
before beauty.
Very old.
But he wanted to ask about easy equities, and I think it's not just about easy equities per se, but it's just advising young people in terms of investments. Is it a good thing to get into? Is it not? And the first three basic things to look at or to consider when you're a young person and you're entering into that space.
Yeah. I think as a young person, a good thing about investing is that you can take risks. Now, this doesn't really only mean, say, bank investments. Because within the banks, you get low risk investments, then you get high risk investments. But so I'm talking about that type of risk because I still have a number of years to recover whatever I lose now.
Right.
But also in life in general, you are able to take risks in terms of maybe starting a business, whether alone or with friends, or maybe investing in another friend's business. That's a way of investing. So in terms of easy equities, there's different strokes for different folks. Doesn't matter the age. So maybe easy equities works for someone, maybe it doesn't work for someone else. So maybe someone will decide to maybe sell chickens or sell goats or something. So whatever money they have, they plug into that channel. So, but to answer your question, Easy Equities isn't a bad platform. Anything that challenges you in terms of your financial literacy, like you said, anything that puts you in a position where you potentially can grow your money is not a bad step. It's not a bad step at all. In terms of Easy Equities and the trading in general, over time, if you want to focus on those type of investments, and this goes back to the gentleman who asked about cryptocurrency, you need to continually educate yourself, not just about Easy Equities, the platform, but also about companies that you trade on Easy Equities. Do you have a question?
No, I'd like us to allow him to respond. And then after the ad break, we will have to do follow-ups on some of the questions. I can see that you are pressed.
Lorato?
Yes.
Can I just, because she's addressed shareholding,
Yes.
he's addressed
The youth.
Easy Equities. I just want to touch on
The medical aid.
medical aids.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, from the get-go, medical aids are not a scam. Let's just get that straight. Ne? They are not a scam. You need to understand or appreciate what is the purpose of a medical aid. You see, let's exclude private companies. If we exclude private companies, and then we're just left with government, ne? Your government then offers you state health care. So a medical aid is where you say, I'm not satisfied with going to a state hospital. You see, so you are buying convenience when it comes to a medical aid. For example, when you go to a government institution, because there's many of us, so most of the time you'll get general type of medication. Let me say, you're not going to get those expensive medications because there's too many. We have to address everyone. You're not special in that setup. You see, but now when you go to a medical, they give you the specialized treatment. You don't have to wait long queues. You see, the convenience and stuff like that. You don't. Let's say you've got a terminal disease and you need operation. You don't have to wait for months and months to get a bed. You see, so that's where it comes in. But the whole model of a medical aid is young people subsidize old people. When you're young, you don't need medication as much, so you subsidize old people. That's just how it's set up.
Sorry, Lorato, I think an important thing that people forget is that you get different types of plans within a medical aid as well.
Right.
So maybe that specific plan that the person had a very limited benefit when it came to medicine, and maybe it was intended for in-hospital as an example. So there's different types of benefits within medical aids. So you get what you pay for almost.
Right.
So maybe the next question to that matter was what was the type of benefit that was on there? Maybe the treatment was exhausted for over-the-counter, buying at a Clicks or a Dis-Chem or whatever. So now in order to get the medication, they needed to go into the hospital to get the treatment. So it's just, we must understand that on the medical aid, it's not a one-size-fits-all. There's different plans within it as well.
Right. I must ask my boss there at the corner if we're getting medical aid. Boss, are we getting medical aid? I'd like us to run to a break. I think we've had such a fulfilling first segment of this show, and I'm appreciating the questions from the floor as well. It's been, it feels good that we are doing what we are here for. But let me take it to the break. When we come back, we continue this conversation with, I have Winnie. Winnie's coming to join us for a second, and we're going to talk more about investments and retirement.